All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, here with Mike Gallagher. We are here each and every Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, looking over the injury report for that day and talking about how it impacts the NBA DFS slate ahead. Mike, 6 games on the docket tonight. Not quite as much injury information to tackle as yesterday, but still plenty. So where do we start today?
Well, we're going to start with the new news today. I'm going to pull up the old tweeter. Never mind. So Kristaps, he is fine according to Jason Kidd, and he gets ruled out early, not even game time decision. Trey Burke also, and then no Sterling Brown, so losing some wing depth. So we'll see a lot of Jalen Brunson. But, yeah, no Porzingis really thins them out. They've been playing him mostly at the 4, Maxey behind him. Probably going to have to go small with some Finney Smith to open up minutes on the 3 as well. So it really affects all their positions. What you just touched up the projections. Where'd you go?
Yeah, I gave a first guess, and this happened right before the show, so we haven't been able to kind of corroborate on this. But my first guess essentially had no power forward overlapping center minutes, meaning Kristaps usually takes like 10 to 15 kind of center minutes, and none of that. But split between 4 guys, because as of last game's Players Council meeting, everybody gets to play as long as Jason Kidd brings the orange slices for halftime. So we've got, Dwight Powell leading the way with 23 and a half minutes. Then I've got Willie Cauley-Stein, Moses Brown, and Boban. Boban's questionable on the injury report too, but I've got them all spread out with a few minutes. If that condensed into one specific person, I think there could be value on a 6-game slate, but I have no idea if it will condense into one person. I think Willie Cauley-Stein would be the favorite if that did happen, but I'm doubtful that it will. And then I think the absence of Sterling Brown and Trey Burke just removes, as you alluded to, a little bit of wing depth, also a little bit of that like Players Council issue that we had where I was projecting 15 guys with minutes. Now I'm projecting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So we're down to 12. So, things improved. But I think there's a lot more upside for, like, if they play like a normal NBA team with normal NBA rotations, you could see massive minutes for Luka, for Tim Hardaway Jr., for Dorian Finney-Smith. I think Reggie Bullock and Maxi Kleber benefit the most from Porzingis in terms of seeing more playing time. I haven't had a chance to actually look at their prices, so we'll talk about it more on the DFS show later. But I've got Bullock at 25 minutes and Kleber at 28 and a half minutes on this. And I feel okay about this stuff. So it really just comes down to, like, are they going to play Josh Green, Frank Ntilikina? Are they going to play all 4 centers? Like, because those few minutes that you start to move around do impact kind of the ceiling on some of these wings. And obviously just a lot more usage to go around with Porzingis out. So it improves the ceiling for Tim Hardaway Jr., for Luka, for really all these guys.
Yeah, I had a Luka prop right when I saw that Mavs PR tweet that I have up. I have it on notifications, so I had some quick thumbs to hit that. So let's talk some other stuff that was the news before, because, again, I was expecting KP to play. So
yeah,
Embiid questionable again. They get a pretty bad team in the Pistons, so definitely a spot to rest him. We saw the quotes from
Andre Drummond revenge too spot.
Oh yeah, Drummond revenge. So yeah, perfect spot to sit him right. I still think he plays. We'll see. We know he's gunning for the MVP this year, which he wants. And then Shake has been out since October 10th. Went through shoot around today. There was talk he was going to start before he went down too. So we have a 28-20 split in favor of Tyrese Maxey. I think we're being conservative on Shake, and it could be a little bit higher, but I haven't seen him go through full contact, so he might be limited. He might not even play. Guys go through shoot around, don't play all the time. So what else do you make of this Embiid stuff? We're going to do this every day, it feels like.
Yeah, I think we are going to be doing this throughout the season. I love Joel Embiid as a player, and I love most of the stuff off the court on the personality stuff. I do think he's being a little bit dramatic, giving these interviews where he's saying that, like, he can't walk in between games, but then he can go out and play 30 minutes. Like, none of that makes any sense to me. If you can't walk in between games, I have no understanding of how you can actually play 30 minutes of NBA basketball. So I do think they're going to need to facilitate finding rest spots for him, and this would seem like a great one. But it also seems like I have him in right now, projected in. It seems like, I don't know. I think he's always hurt, and it just seems like, does he want to get extra credit for playing? because I think he's very upset that he didn't get credit for playing very well last year and missing games, and that's why he thinks he lost the MVP when he wasn't the best player in the league. Jokic was. So he just is like whining a little bit that he wants extra credit for what he's playing through, and so I'm expecting him to play through these things, but this would be an opportune time for Philadelphia to rest him if they wanted to.
Yep. Definitely cut some maxi upside down on that side, but we'll see. We know it's going to be a lot of Drummond. Yank could get some minutes against Kelly Olynyk. That would make sense too. So Paul Reed probably wouldn't be a great play. Speaking of which, Jeremy Grant didn't practice yesterday. Really, all indications he's missing, in my opinion. So that's, oh man. We saw Kelly Olynyk start and against a big front court in the last game, so maybe they don't. We saw Josh Jackson also start over Frank Jackson. Frank Jackson kind of off to a slow start, despite how Casey loves him. Do you think there would be a different game plan approach? Maybe they would start different here rather than going Olynyk and Beef Stew together?
I think it's a good question. I don't know, because Philadelphia is a little bit tougher to play like two bigs against, just because Tobias will kill you in isolation.
Yeah,
in those spots. I have Jeremy Grant projected in. I have the out scenario ready if we need to switch that around based on assumptions. But I do think there could be a change in the starting lineup there. I do think. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big Frank Jackson believer, so I kind of think naturally like they shouldn't be playing him as much, and like that, like him playing less minutes than he had played by a wide margin without Jeremy Grant there, I think was really a bad sign for his involvement in the rotation. But if they went back to things like, that's probably what you do. You'd probably bring Frank Jackson back into the mix and have Josh Jackson play at the 4 if you weren't starting Olynyk. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. The other thing that I note in that last game, it was a blowout situation. This game could be the same type of thing. But Killian Hayes played a ton in the first half without Jeremy Grant. And I think that they just recognize that they don't have anyone who can create their own shot very well. And not that Killian can really create a lot of his own shot, but it's at least something compared to the other guys that they're putting out there. Like, so I think there would be really big upside to Killian Hayes' minutes if the game could stay competitive, and maybe even his usage if Jeremy Grant was out, because I don't think they trust anybody other than like Josh Jackson to maybe create his own offense. I think that's a big reason that Olynyk got into the starting lineup as well, because you can run a lot of different offense through Olynyk with his passing skills and his ability to stretch the floor a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think they could put Olynyk on anybody else too. So I think they would switch there.
They could put Olynyk on like Danny Green.
Yeah, it's so funky though. But yeah, I mean, I guess they could. Moving on to Levine. So we got the news yesterday. Has a small tear in his non-shooting thumb. That's important. Was taped up at practice yesterday. Billy Donovan left the door open that he could sit. So we still have him in. You know, he's expected to play. Wouldn't be shocking if he does sit this one out here. I mean, he wants to play. I'm sure this is kind of a huge game against the Knicks. It's great that the old '90s basketball Bulls Knicks is back here. So. What I guess you want to explore. I mean, look, DeMar DeRozan has a pretty good prop that I almost took just as leverage on it. Anything else that would how would you see the rotation shaking out if Levine sits?
Man, like if Levine sits, they have a lot of minutes to fill and not a lot of personnel to do it. You would see Troy Brown and Javonte Green fill a lot of minutes, but I mean, like they're already playing like Lonzo like 36 to 38 a night. They're playing Caruso like 25 to 29 a night. They're playing DeRozan around 35 a night. The guy who's most equipped to like see a pickup in minutes would probably be Patrick Williams. He's been stuck in like the 25 to 29 range. Maybe they could bump him to like 29 to 33, but Troy Brown and Javonte Green would have to play a decent bit. Like they just wouldn't have a lot of options. You would also see usage really condense a lot more on DeMar and Vucevic. And so I think, from a DFS perspective, those guys are going to be inconsistent all year long when all three of them are healthy. But when you get one of them out, you can start to rely on them a little bit more. I think Vooch in particular would be pretty attractive in this situation. His price is down a little bit. And I think his skill set is one that can give Mitch Robinson trouble, like wanting to pull you away from the basket, do ball fakes, get Mitch off his feet. Like I think there's some things there. So I think Levine's going to play. He's always been one of these guys who likes to play through everything. But again, it's usually in the hands of the medical staff in these situations. The Bulls medical staff, way back when, cleared Luol Deng to play with a fractured leg. So they have a history of not being super conservative with injuries. Obviously, I'm sure there's been turnover in the medical staff since those days, but I mean they were like borderline malpractice with what they would allow guys to play through. And Derrick Rose, same thing. So I would expect LaVine to play.
Yeah, sometimes not. The Lakers head medical staff guy was on the team for like 25, 30 years or something, I want to say.
Yeah.
I will just add maybe some little Alizé at the 4. He's really was naturally a 4 until they kind of shifted him to and it makes sense in a bigger matchup too. So, dark horse to start. Maybe they just go really big. Something to keep an eye on, put him on. It's thin, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think it's pretty unlikely. They just don't seem super happy with Tony Bradley either. And so if you move Alizé to the 4, you have to kind of play Tony Bradley. I think the guy that they're happiest with is Javonte Green, actually. So I think he would probably slide in. He would be the heavy favorite to me to start.
I think so too. But I think they could just start Caruso. I mean,
they could. The rotations would get pretty wonky. I mean, they seem like Donovan seems to be pretty comfortable with Io. So I mean, maybe.
Yep.
But this is where they're missing Kobe White. Like they need. They don't have the bench depth right now, despite their strong start to the season record wise.
Then we got Bojan Bogdanovic has an illness. He's going to be questionable for this one. Mia Ione also is questionable, so that's something that may affect their depth. They really like Jared Butler, so maybe they shift if they're going to start Ingles, which they would almost certainly do. Because Ingles is like de facto almost point guard 3 sometimes, so maybe fixing in Jared Butler for some minutes. But it would obviously just be Royce O'Neal getting more shots, Ingles getting more minutes, Clarkson getting more minutes. Yeah, really just condensed around the key rotation guys.
While Bogdanovic projects for like 30 minutes normally, and that's a lot of minutes to move around and spread, they do have a lot of bodies to soak it up. You can take like 2 to 3 minutes and add them on to Conley, Clarkson. You can add on 5 to 6 onto Ingles. You can add on like 2 onto Mitchell. You can add on 2 to 3 onto Royce O'Neal. Like they have played without one of their key guys for large stretches, whether it's been Conley or Mitchell or Bogdanovic over the last few years. And we've seen they're just willing to play their main guys into the mid 30s in those spots. And so I think it would be a situation where it would open up more of the main Utah guys, not as much of like the secondary value plays that would kind of open up. I think it would just make, Ingles a stronger play. Clarkson, because Clarkson, like right now, he's playing like 25 minutes. Ingles is playing like, 25 when he doesn't get ejected. Those guys can play 30, and like Mitchell's playing 33 to 34, where he could go up to 36. Conley's playing like 29 to 31. He could go 30 to 33. Like they can just kind of spread those minutes amongst us mostly. Yeah.
And then they are like the foundation of the Utah offense with the little pick and roll stuff is Gobert and shooters, man. Houston's going to be so late on. They're going to be bombing threes tonight. Yeah. Like all night. We covered most of it. I hit me really quick. Just a couple new outs that are going to be affecting rotations. Doug McDermott had that knee soreness. He's going to miss time, has some swelling. So we saw Devin Vassell go bonkers with some free time. Lonnie Walker also was hot as a shooter. We saw Keita Bates-Diop as a candidate to start, but he took minutes from Keldon. I'm still feeling that one. But definitely Vassell. I feel bad. Like I wanted you to bring him down minutes wise, and I feel dirty. But I think Vassell probably is going to start. I just think it makes a lot of sense. And just
we've got our minutes set up to where we'll move slightly based on whoever's starting. But the candidates based on the beat reporting yesterday was Vassell, Keita Bates-Diop, and Thaddeus Young. And Thaddeus Young would be the most challenging one just because he hasn't played a ton. And so from a minutes perspective and projecting him would be super, super difficult. I think it's the least likely scenario. They seem to really not want to play him. All of that said, in terms of like the matchup in the situation tonight, before when Kristaps Porzingis was in, I thought it was more of a possible scenario that Thad started. Now, I think it's more likely that it's Vassell most likely as the starter there. The only difference is if they'd want like his scoring off the bench or something like that. But I think that kind of makes the most sense. So I think you'll be able to see a potential for big minutes jump for Vassell, for Lonnie Walker. DeJounte's already carrying a pretty heavy load, so I don't think he can go too much higher. Derek White could go a little bit higher. And then Keldon, as long as he stays out of foul trouble, should approach 30 plus once again tonight. We saw him get to a high of 37 in that game against Denver. I think San Antonio is going to be an interesting spot to attack tonight for sure.
Yeah, Thad has just 12 minutes at center too, so he definitely slots in. All of his minutes, have been at center, but we did see him play power forward in the preseason, so it wouldn't be a totally new rotation wrinkle. Also, Daniel House for Houston. I mean, they might shut him down because there was a lot of trade rumors on him missing times. That's pretty straightforward to me because we saw David Nwaba kind of just move in there. So that's pretty much a straight swap to me, but it does give a little bit more leash to Jayshawn Tate, who they're pretty comfortable with right now. Anything else that you're noticing there? I got to change this.
I would just say Houston's a tough team to project. These really bad teams, you can see them like turn over the roster on a given night. We saw Tice start out really well last game and end up playing a lot more than we expected, and Tate's minutes got cut down. So without Daniel House, there's more opportunity for those guys. But House wasn't playing that much. He was playing like 15 minutes a night. So you can replace those between Nwaba, Jalen Green's upside's a little higher. Maybe Josh Christopher, plays a little bit. Eric Gordon gets a few more minutes potential, but it's also a spot where, they're double-digit underdogs to the Jazz, could easily get blown out here, and you could see like dysfunction. So it's not a spot for me to really attack from a value perspective, even though they're down a rotation player.
Yeah, I mean, it could be bad. Like Utah, it's like they're so disciplined. They have such a structure to their offense, and Houston's not going to be able to cover that. Silas had talked about how Boston's structured offense really threw their guys for a loop, being so inexperienced, Jalen Green, et cetera, et cetera. Think we said we got some returns too. Oh, you got to hit Daniel Gafford. Yeah. So we saw Harold go crazy in the first half. Saw some minutes. Little Bertans at the 5. Wes Unseld has mentioned they want to play Isaiah Todd at the 5 a little bit, more of a natural 4, but he could be in the rotation. What do you make of Gafford and then Neto coming back to?
This is a big problem for Washington. Like really, really big problem. They played Montrezl Harrell 20 second half minutes last night after Gafford got hurt. The 4 minutes that he was not on the floor, Bertans was playing at the center spot. So the question is, how high can they really go on Harrell? I have him at 33. I debated higher based on that 20 second half minutes, but he's also a guy that historically has not, because he's so much of an energy guy and he goes in quick bursts, he has not been able to play those long extended stints. Throw in the matchup with Atlanta, who is very big. And I mean, Atlanta can play lots of different ways. They've got Bogdan Bogdanovic on the injury report too, that we'll have to keep an eye on. But like, this could be a scenario where Atlanta might be able to get, if we go to Bertans minutes, Atlanta might get away from Gorgie Dieng minutes and then have Collins straight as the backup 5, which could really boost Collins' DFS appeal as well if he had more of his minutes just straight out there staggered from Capella, and they can fill with all the wings they have. They have so much wing depth with Gallinari, Herter's probable, Bogdanovic is questionable, but Cam Reddish, Lou Williams is questionable too. They have so many different guys that they can fill it that way. And that's what I'm kind of interested to see. I think Harrell's going to be mega chalk in DFS, and with good reason. And I think other guys, Davis Bertans will get more of an opportunity, but I think the minutes are going to be spread to the rest of the guys where it's not going to open up a lot of opportunity from a DFS perspective. But I think Atlanta could become more interesting than they usually are if they opt to play smaller and give John Collins more minutes separated from Clint Capella.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Chase Hughes of NBC Sports Washington just mentioned that he thinks that Kuzma and Denny Avdia could get minutes at the 5. And we saw Wes Unseld basically say they didn't want to do too much with Avdia kind of learning new stuff. They wanted to kind of keep it simple for him. So that would honestly surprise me. Hughes is really good, though. He's covered a lot. He's covered the team pretty long time here. So, it's pretty. But, man, Harrell's just going to be such a good play, even in kind of a bad matchup. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. So we can get out of here. Before we do, just a reminder, if you're enjoying the content that we're putting out, and apparently according to the chat, you guys are loving the thumbnails they put out, which I actually haven't checked out the thumbnail yet. So I know I sent a slew of embarrassing photos to our content team, so I can only imagine what they have put up. But if you're enjoying this free content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the videos. That helps the algorithm in terms of us getting noticed and growing this opportunity for more free content from us. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much for being a subscriber. If you're not, we have plenty of stuff going on at Establish the Run. You can check out our in-season DFS package, which comes with Mike Gallagher's matchups column, comes with our live shows Monday through Friday, comes with all the projections and analysis to get you ready for each and every DFS slate. Or you can check out our props package, where on the season we're hitting about 60% so far. We're getting out like 5+ bets a day right now. Early in the season, there's lots of opportunities. And you can hop in the Discord and hang out with a bunch of cool people who are, creating a really nice, positive community and supportive one that's kind of helping each other grow as DFS players and as prop bettors. So check that all out on the subscribe button on establishrun.com. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for another edition of the NBA Injury Report Analysis Show, 2:00 Eastern. We'll see you then.